Hey everybody, welcome back to the Men of the Kingdom podcast. My name is Kyle. This is my co-host Aaron. If you are new to the channel, we want to say welcome. Purpose of the show is to help men live successful lives according to God's design. And if you're one of our faithful returning viewers, we just want to say thank you as always. And I know what you're thinking. What's up with the setup? We're usually face to face, so it's a little weird looking at him from the side, Aaron here. But yeah, we have something special for you guys tonight, and we're really excited to get going. Before we do, I always have to ask, Aaron, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Doing well. Yeah, I feel like we're getting back to our roots here. First time we ever set up and recorded, this is how we did it. So It's good to be back, looking you guys deep in your eyes, deep in your souls, and hopefully the increased connection here, leads to a great episode for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, when we were getting ready for this, I asked him, episode 15 already. It's crazy. Yeah, we have a few of these episodes under our belt. We hope you guys have found value in it. And we think that today is going to also give you value. Because typically on these shows, when we've done this in the past, we're either interviewing a guest or mostly it's just Aaron and I going back and forth on topics that, we felt like were on our heart or we find that you guys would find valuable or helpful depending on where you are in life. And today is a little bit different where we're going to go into the topic of education, but more so reading and kind of the importance of that, the value of it. One of the reasons I really got started into reading was actually because of this guy right here. I didn't used to like to read. I was homeschooled, and that was a big part of the curriculum. I didn't enjoy it. And then once I started getting into books I actually found enjoyable and that I was getting value out of, it's become a natural rhythm in my life. So I'm curious for you, before you get started, how did you get started reading? Was there an influence you had, or how did that all come about? Because you guys can't see it, but there's books all around this room. There's books all in our garage that Aaron owns. So kind of talk to me about that.
Yeah, so honestly, kind of a mystery. Thinking back, I don't even really know where it started. What I do remember, though, is that similar to you, my idea of reading versus like the books I started to consume were totally different. So I remember that there was one summer that I just started reading self-development books, and I remember feeling and thinking like, where have all these been? Like, where this information was just out there, and I was reading, Hatchet and all the stuff.
Sports Illustrated magazine.
Well, just the stuff they have you read in school, Huckleberry Finn,
Yeah.
So I just remember not even having an idea that these books exist. And then even just thinking too, like, holy cow, I can go buy one of these books at Goodwill for $1 and get all this information.
Yeah.
So it felt like it was like a whole new world opened for me. But I was going to ask too, do you remember like any of the first ones that you read? Because I think that's always pretty funny too, looking back.
Yeah. I do remember one book, the Psycho-Cybernetics book.
Oh yeah, Maxwell Maltz.
Yeah, basically just about like, how your thinking and stuff can affect your life. And they talk about a lot of different experiments and stuff they did. That was one. I'm trying to remember if
that's
there's
a pretty
any
heavy
other
hitter
ones.
to start with.
Yeah, it got me hooked. I think we're similar in the way that we like to consume information in books that we feel like we can apply to our life or that we can actually use, and it will change the way we live. Not anything against fiction books. Those are good and they have a time and place. But I think things that are real life or things you can take and learn and like apply is something we focus on, which is why we're really excited for today. Because we have some book recommendations for you guys, for people who are looking to learn or want to grow in their faith walk and their get closer to God and just understand things more. We've kind of come up 3 books each that we would recommend based on ones we've actually read for you guys to check out. So let's just jump right into it. Aaron, why don't you kick us off with the first book?
Cool. So first one here is a book that I actually found out through, we had a small men's group of guys at our church, and kind of a sub-tip. So reading is good, but what we compare to reading the Bible, how it's one thing just to read it, it's another thing to read it, take notes, think through it, even adding another layer to that, whether it's the Bible or these books that we're talking about or really any book. I've always found in my life that I love having discussions. So you just brainstorm with people, you read a couple chapters, get together, say, hey, what did you guys think? What did you learn? What were some surprises? And that's what we did with this one. So my first book is Counterfeit Gods by Tim Keller. And the subtitle kind of gives away the purpose of the book, but the empty promises of money, sex, and power, and the only hope that matters. So if you've never heard of Tim Keller, highly, highly recommend his work. This might not even be my favorite Tim Keller book that I've gotten into. This is the only one that I've read cover to cover, though. And would ask you too, but I think that this was a really great book to read with a group of guys in the sense of like right on the front, the empty promises of money, sex, and power. I think those are three things that I know I struggle with. I feel like a lot of the guys in our group that we talked to did. And it was really cool, hearing how he breaks this down. And what I remember from it, which was my biggest lesson, and I want to ask you too, because you were in the group, but was that those things are not inherently bad. So like money is not bad. Where money starts to become bad is when it becomes more important in your life than God. So just thinking back to that, I remember we're reading through this and just hearing all these guys sharing all these stories of, I struggle in this way, and everyone being like, yeah, I agree with that. I feel the same way. So not only is this an awesome book, but I think it's a great one to read in a small group. But what do you remember from reading this book?
Yeah, some of the things you touched on, just like we get into this thing where it's like we know what we shouldn't pursue and we know what we should pursue, but it's really easy to fall back into. So literally the things on the cover there is, money, sex, and power. The actually it kind of correlates with the book I'm going to recommend here in a second. But yeah, especially if you're at a younger age, and I wouldn't say younger because I think we all go through a phase of life where we're trying to figure out what we're trying to pursue. To be transparent, I've been going through that recently, just like, what am I good at? Where am I going to be? Trying to pursue, I think, maybe some of the wrong things. And that's a good reminder. It's funny you bring that up. It's much needed time. Like, hey, like this stuff's not going to make you happy. You can get a certain amount of money and you'll still want more. You can sleep with a bunch of people. You're not going to feel content. And so it's just a good reminder. I think reading it in a group is very helpful because I think you'll find that you resonate with a lot of the similar things other people are going through as well. So I am going to throw my book only because we're perfect timing here. And it is called Cold Case Christianity. I hope you guys can see that there. A little bit different type of book. This is more of a theological or apologetics book, more giving like reasons and facts and history for the resurrection of Christ. But it's funny, the Money, Sex, and Power, the guy who wrote this, J. Warner Wallace, he was actually a cold case homicide detective. And what he does in this book is he uses a lot of the same techniques they do in that field of work to solve crimes and applies it to, the resurrection. What does the Bible say? Jesus stuff to see, is it credible? Does it make sense? But one of the things he says in there that pretty much any crime, because he dealt with murders and homicides, usually is either linked to money, sex, or power. Same things those talk about.
That's very ironic.
Yeah, and it is true. You think of like anything crime that you've heard, you watch CSI or something, it usually has to do with one of those things. So really good book if you're trying to get, hard evidence or like things you can actually like, I don't know how to explain it, but really learn the history and like a lot of reasons for it. And a lot of the other books I'll get into talk about that too. But I would highly recommend this for you if you have just like a lot of questions around that you want to understand, or maybe you've had questions yourself when people ask you like, what is the evidence for Christ's resurrection or his existence and stuff like that. It's a really good book. Some photos and stuff to kind of help you digest it and understand it better. And he's just a good writer. And you can watch him on YouTube too. So if you do want to check that out, I would highly recommend it.
Cool. That's sweet. Yeah, it's pretty ironic too. I mean, I think that even just drives home Tim Keller's point, right? When you put those things above God, you might be in a book where a homicide detective is writing about you as an example.
Not a book you want to be in.
No, not one you want to be the subject of. Okay, so the next one actually is really relevant for me in the season of life that I'm in. As you guys know, if you watched, I think it was episode 13, I just got engaged this summer. And this next book was instrumental for my fiance and I and the development in our relationship. It's called The Mingling of Souls by Matt Chandler. So this book is actually based off the biblical passage of the Song of Songs written by Solomon. And we heard about this book from a recommendation of a different couple that we're friends with, which again, too, I think even just the point in not only Counterfeit Gods, but this is, it's so important to have community around you. And that's a great question to ask people that you look up to. Hey, what's your favorite, do you have a book that you really like? Yeah. Or do you have any podcasts that you really like? Because a lot of times you can learn a lot about people by the kind of stuff that they read, or shows that they watch, or podcasts that they listen to, whatever. So I would just advise you, if you ever want a good question to ask someone that you're trying to get to know or someone you look up to not be afraid to ask. Anyway, Mingling of Souls is written in the angle of Song of Songs, which is like the perfect love story in the Bible.
Other than God dying for Christ dying for us.
Yes.
Second best.
True. True. My only problem with this book was I read it before I read more about Solomon's life. And biblically, Solomon actually had like, they say like 300 wives. He like slept with like hundreds of women. So it was a little confusing to me of like, why is God using this guy as the pinnacle example of relationships? But I do think there's kind of some hidden messaging in that too, of God even saying like, hey, this guy, didn't live the perfect life, but I can still use him to share the story of how love should be. So I would recommend this book, honestly, to anyone who is serious about relationships. If you're single, it's a really great book to help you understand the kind of person that you need to turn into and the kind of people that you want to look for. If you're in a relationship, I would buy this immediately. It's going to help you understand how to navigate your relationship, what kind of conversations you need to have. And yeah, this book has been instrumental to my fiance and I. So if you're serious about relationships, check it out. Mingling of Souls, Matt Chandler.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, you recommended that one to me, and I'm not engaged or not getting married, but it is a good book, and it helps you kind of start thinking about like, hey, maybe you've gotten burned in some relationships or you haven't had success. I think that's going to give you a lot of good insights to say, hey, like here's some things I probably did wrong and I can fix moving forward. It's going to help you with your future relationships. No doubt. So getting into... I'm going to save the best for last, my favorite. So we're going to go to this one too, which is also a very good book. It's called The Case for Christ. Very popular book. You may have already heard of it, by Lee Strobel. Again, this one's, I think, a lot more focused on the resurrection of Christ and the evidence for that, which I would really like. You'll notice that all my book recommendations this time are more apologetics based or reason based and stuff like that. So whether you're having conversations with unbelievers or people who might believe in something else, it just kind of gives you a groundwork and a framework to have those conversations. But one thing I like about all these books too, at least the ones I'm recommending, these guys were not like lifelong Christians. They didn't grow up in the church. Lee Strobel, for example, he was an editor at the Chicago, some newspaper, high up guy, huge atheist. His wife started going to church because their relationship was on rocky grounds. She got involved with some women who took her under her wings and loved her well, and she started to pursue Christ. She said that to her husband Lee at the time, and he was not for it. He was an alcoholic at the time, all this crazy stuff, and he actually set out to disprove Christianity. And through his research over years, that's actually what led him to Christ. And that's a similar story for a lot of people that are now some of the biggest Christian authors. Is like they did not believe in Christ. They didn't want anything to do with it, set out to disprove it. And over time, they actually became Christians because of the stuff they found and God pursuing them. So really good book. It was hard to choose just 3 books each because we've read a lot and we have a lot of interest in a lot of books we are interested in. So leave in the comments too if you like these book recommendation videos, because we have a lot of other ones around business, other relationship books, and just different areas of life. We'd love to recommend you guys because we have a whole host of them, and we'd love to hear your guys' feedback. So number 2 for me, Case for Christ, Lee Strobel.
Cool. All right, now I'm gonna saved this one for last because it has the coolest cover. So it'll be my my kind of capping this off. But this one is called Chase the Lion by Mark Batterson. This is another group book that I read with a group of guys. Initially, I read it with you and one of our other friends, and we'd talk through it periodically. I think especially with faith books, like any book, I think it's good, but for some reason, something about the faith books, like if you read it with people that you're close with, especially guys, and it's a book like this, right, where you're just looking at the cover of this and the subtext. If your dream doesn't scare you, it's too small. And just thinking about that, think about reading a book about challenging one another and, going for lofty goals. Like those are things that as guys get us excited. And I think it's really cool when you combine that natural masculine element with the spirituality and with, the faith element of it. So the biggest thing I remember from this book is he talks about if you're not doing things that require godly assistance, you're not making space for God to show up in your life. So what he says is that a lot of people just go through life and only do things that they know how to do. But when you hear stories of like miraculous intervention or I had no idea how this was going to happen, and then God showed up, that's because those people attempted to do something they didn't know how they were going to do, and that left the space to have them say, hey, I'm going to do this, and the only way it's going to happen is if God shows up and, does great works here. So this book, honestly, I would say if you're watching this show, if you've watched our episodes, you enjoy the way we talk and the things we're about, I would 100% recommend this book. If you're watching this and you have a man in your life who you want to motivate and inspire, it's a great gift. Whether that's like one of your boys, or if you're a female watching this and it's your girlfriend or your boyfriend or husband, I'd say that's just an awesome book to really get any guy at any stage of life fired up and thinking bigger, which I think, that's something that we're pretty big on in this show is we want to inspire you guys. We want to motivate you, and we want God to do great things in your life. So hopefully Mark Batterson can get you as fired up about that as he did for us.
Absolutely. One thing I'll touch on too with that, I think we probably touched on it with our fitness episode on the last one, but just like you talked about reading as a group, we talk about accountability a lot and having those other group of guys, because a lot of people, maybe you're like, I'm not much of a reader and stuff, and maybe that's true. I think once you start reading and you see the benefits of it and the things you learn, you'll like it, but having it a partner where hey, next Wednesday, we're going to be talking about chapters 1 and 2, or however you want to do it. That's going to hold you accountable and say, hey, I don't want to let these guys down, so I'm going to make sure I get that stuff done. So there's power in that. And it's just fun being able to like bounce ideas off other people and get advice that way too. So
yeah, I was just thinking too, like if that's something that you guys wanted, I mean, we could even start like a Men of the Kingdom book club.
That'd be sweet.
Like that'd be something that I would love to do. And we've already done it before, but we have something we're going to talk about at the end of this episode. Maybe we could somehow incorporate that into it. I don't know how it would work. I'm not going to steal the thunder, but if that's something you guys are interested in, hit us up, message us, comment on the episode, get a hold of us, and we could definitely make it happen.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'd love that, having like some call or something every so often, talk about it. Yeah, the whole purpose of this channel obviously is to help people. Like we like getting on here, we like talking about stuff, but at the end of the day, we want to help you in whatever context that looks like. If that means you need accountability or someone you can talk a book through or have questions, we obviously want to be that for you. So yeah, we'll touch on it at the end. So my last book, and one of my favorite books, honestly, is called I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. And that's a pretty eye-catching title. Because I think there's a lot of people out here who do have questions. So whether you're an atheist, and if you're familiar with the terms of atheist, they believe that there is no God. Agnostic, they don't know if there is a God or not. I really like this book because it takes you at ground zero. It kind of goes into the book with the assumption, we're not even talking about the God of the Bible, is there reason for a God or being or a power greater than us? And then they kind of build up and make the case for God of the Bible. So I really enjoyed it. It's I wouldn't say it's an easy read, but it's very manageable, and you can learn it because they take you through things step by step. So I wouldn't get intimidated by it, but maybe either you or you have friends that are an atheist or have challenge you on certain things. This book will give you a huge framework to be able to have those intelligent conversations with them and give reasons for your faith, and just really good arguments that you wouldn't normally think of. And the author, one of them, Frank Turik, he's a really good guy. If you go on YouTube, actually, they have a YouTube channel called Cross Examine. We can link it to in the description below, because he speaks a lot on college campuses and lectures and stuff. And there's pretty much any question you can think of related to Christianity, he's probably answered. So I'd highly encourage you to check it out. That's how I found him, and then got his book. And I really enjoyed it. It's a little bit longer one, but when you get to the end of it, I feel like you'll feel a lot better for it, and you'll feel a lot more armed to have conversations with people. So with that being said, we have some very exciting news. Obviously we're trying to build something here that, like I said earlier, helps you guys. And as we were kind of sitting down talking with each other, these videos are great, but we want kind of another area where we can have resources like this where you guys can access it. So with that being said, Aaron and I are super excited to announce we have launched our very first Men of the Kingdom website, motkshow.com. We'll link that absolutely for sure. Please check it out. You'll find all these books that we recommended here on there with links for you to purchase them if you'd like. We also have super helpful resources too, and opportunities for you to get involved with organizations we support, such as Sammy's Dad, the Humanity Alliance, where they feed thousands of meals a week to people around the metro here who just can't afford food. So stuff like that, or Feed My Starving Children, or churches, Salt City Church that we're involved with, if you want to check them out. So we just wanted a central hub where you guys could access all this information. It would be easy, it'd be free. And then of course we also have links to all of our videos that we've recorded. So if you see an episode on there you want to check out, make sure you do so. So Aaron, do you have any things you want to add on the website? I know we're both pretty stoked about it.
Yeah, no, I would just say super excited about the possibilities of what it means, even just talking through this and the idea of like, we want our website to be a community thing. So if you know resources, if you know books, if you know organizations that need help, I mean, we want this to be a two-way conversation. You know, we make these episodes, but we want to hear from you guys. So I would just say that, you know, we're always so blown away by the support that we've already gotten, and we just want to keep building on that. We want to learn more about people, learn more about the kind of content that they need, get connected through things like book clubs. We've kicked around the idea of like making merchandise. So yeah, I just think that who knows where it's going to take us, but yeah, I'm super stoked, and I guess thank you for the work you put in on the website.
Team effort.
Yeah, it seemed like it kind of came together quickly, but yeah, I don't know. I'm excited, and I like the URL that we got too.
Yeah, we were kicking around a few different ideas, and we decided on that one. But yeah, there will be a form on there on our contact us page. Go to the comment section of there and just type a little bit about what you're thinking. It doesn't have to be related to this episode, but if you are interested in doing more of like a book club style where, you know, we all go through a book that we think would be helpful and just help each other grow as men, I know we'd both be excited about it. So check that out. If anything, just make sure you go there and check out some of the resources we have on there. Yeah, it was fun to make, and we just, like you said, hope to keep growing this, helping people, and yeah, we're super excited. So yeah, check it out. Make sure you guys check out these books if you're interested in it. We hope you found some value out of there. We know you will enjoy those books. We're excited to see you on the next episode, and until then,
keep advancing the kingdom.
We'll see you on the next one, guys.